Okay. We've been talking about correlation all week, and correlation coefficients we talked about yesterday, and I showed you how to get them on your calculator and on Desmos. Today, we're going to talk about what those numbers mean more specifically. Okay, so we've talked about the positive correlation, okay, and it's when they both increase. So this would be an example of positive. These, as you can see, they're all going in an upward positive slope. Okay. Then we've got negative, okay, and those all decrease, and those have a negative slope as we read across the page. And then there's no correlation, which doesn't have any linear trend at all. They're just random dots that are there on the graph. Okay, so the closer that it is to a positive 1, okay, so a 0.9, okay, a 0.99, close to a 1, okay, is getting closer and closer to perfect. Just like 100% is a perfect score. Okay? So the closer that you get to 0, okay, that's no correlation. That's 0%. Okay, that's a bad grade. That's a really poor correlation, meaning you don't know anything. Okay, and then there is the negative 1. Okay, it's still a perfect correlation. It is just the negative slope. It just goes negatively, meaning that as your x value increases, your y value comes down. So I'm trying to think of a good example of it. As the temperature goes up, the ice cream, the amount of ice cream that's still frozen goes down because it's going to be melting. The hotter it gets, the more it's going to melt. I don't know. So that's one example of a negative correlation, meaning one thing going positive direction causes the other thing to go in the negative direction. So as we compare these two scatter plots here, this one is going positive and this one is going negative. So that's the difference between those two scatter plots. Okay, again, both of these actually are both going positive. Okay, this one is just closer to perfect because it is closer together. The dots are tighter. These dots are looser. So they are they're not as tight or close to perfect of a correlation. Then we've got this one, which is they're both negative, but the same thing. This one over here is closer to a perfect line, which makes it closer to a perfect correlation. Just happens to be a negative correlation. These dots are looser or not as tight, so this is not as close to a perfect correlation. Okay. So as we continue, same thing. These are going to be both negative. Okay, the dots are still pretty spread out. Okay, this one, positive correlation. This one's all spread out, so there's nothing. Okay, so the correlation coefficient describes how they're related. And the closer to 1, okay, the more related that they are. Okay, so here we go. This R is 0.996. Okay, so 0.996 is really close to 1. Notice how much like a perfect line that those are. Well, a negative 0.994, again, is pretty close to a perfect line there. It just goes in the negative direction. Okay, so notice this one, 0.996. Okay, really tight dots close together. 0.962. This is like a 96%. Okay, but notice the difference. If we think of this one as 99% accurate and this one over here is 96% accurate, okay, this 99 is really close together and this 96 is spread out a little bit more. Okay, so the further you get from one, the more spread out they are. See how spread out these are right here? Negative correlation, 0.885. Okay, spread out. There's still, you can still see the pattern. This one is 0.994 negative. Okay, so close together, negative slope. Okay, negative, they're both exactly the same. Okay, exactly the same correlation. This one is just stretched a little bit more. Okay, this one, they're still spread out. Okay. So when we look at your assignment that you were doing today, okay, that I had you do as a group, okay, in partners, okay, you had to determine things that fell on your plot here from -1 to +1, the stronger negative correlation to the stronger positive correlation. Okay, so you should have put them in order like this. So at -0.97, okay, you get these dots that are going in the negative, pretty close to a straight line. Okay, -0.82. This one still goes in a negative direction. Okay, it's still going negative. They're not as close together. This one more spread out. Okay, this one up here, again, okay, the dots start up higher and go down lower, so we know it's a negative correlation. Okay, pretty spread out, getting pretty close to zero. These right here, pretty close to zero, nothing. Okay, 0.034, but this one's a positive correlation. It's the dots start out low and go up high as we go across, but they're not very tight, so they're not real close to a perfect correlation there. Okay, then we've got 0.70. That's this one. Okay, we've got an outlier. That's what that one would be called, that are kind of off the grid, causing it to not be close to perfect. Okay, then we got this one, and then this one is pretty close to it, exactly perfect. Okay, so this is what your assignment should have looked like. I hope you did good putting these together. I will see you back in class tomorrow, guys. I hope. Now you should be able to do the assignment on Boom. Good job.